seem like a funny video to someone, but maybe someone will really appreciate it. One of the funniest things I've ever read on the internet is when mechanic type people translate things from marketing jargon into plain English. So as an example, like if you go to buy an air compressor and it says like maintenance free, the mechanic will say won't last long. Or for IKEA furniture, if it says, you know, no tools required for assembly, someone will say won't stay together long. And I've always just found that stuff really funny. And anyway, my wife's watch broke a couple days ago, and it almost basically fell off her wrist, and we almost lost it. And it's not super expensive, but it was still a bummer. And I just went to see if I could repair it in some way, and I noticed these pins are a pin design that I've never seen before in my whole life, even though I've owned lots of watches. And it has this little place for your finger to grab, your fingernail to grab, so that you can easily pull this little thing down. And I thought that was a really clever design, right? Like some engineer figured out that he could put a little tiny post in there and he could make these things way easier to remove, because a lot of times you need a tool. There's a special tool that reaches in there and pulls these little pins down. And so as I was taking it apart, I thought, oh, that's so smart. Then I examined the failure mode. And because of these pins, you have to have, in order for them to be useful, you have to have an opening in the band. And that is exactly where it tore. And that's literally no surprise at all to anyone who's ever designed something. You have this obvious weak point here, and that weak point was put into the band so that you could make use of this feature. And so one of the really interesting things when you've worked in the service industry, or when you've fixed things that are broken, or when you've worked in engineering, is you can see how what marketers will sort of praise their company for in terms of features are really liabilities and weak points, not necessarily designed to destroy a product, but that will lead to an early demise of the product. If you contrast that to my watch, which is kind of made like a military style, you have this one-piece band, unlike a two-piece band, and basically you just have these two permanent bars that are not removable. And so even if one of these bars breaks, this thing would still stay on your wrist. It would just stay like that. And so when you've been around a little while, or when you've fixed a bunch of broken stuff and you see the way that things fail, you begin to look at new products and features from a different perspective. And I'm not trying to say that my perspective is better, but our world right now is so fixated on easy to use, toolless assembly, no special skills required, any idiot can do it. And that's kind of where things like this come in, because this pin costs more money to have this little external pocket cut out of here and this little ball formed or forged or whatever it is. And then this band is more expensive because they have to cut this window. And then in the end, the product becomes quite a bit less reliable. And so anyway, all I'm really trying to do is just share a perspective. There's a million people on YouTube telling you about how awesome some new product is. And there's not a lot of people, although there are some, who are analyzing old products that have failed. And these are the kind of things you don't think about when you look at something new. You just see the exciting new feature and you buy it. And anyway, I just encourage people to think a little more analytically. And as you fix broken stuff, to think about failure modes. And if you're in a position where you're designing stuff, recognize that for every feature that you add, you also add new failure modes. And in the long term, that won't be good for your product or for your company or for your customers. So yeah, it's just a stupid little watch video. And if you didn't like it, I get it. Just give it a thumbs down and let me know. But there is something here for the engineers and the philosophers. And maybe that'll be interesting to you all. Take care.